And a big hello to the BFOD squad. Welcome back, everybody, to Barrelful of Daryl, Season 2. Now on Episode 15. And they just fly by. Well, this is where I discuss music, movies, provide some mirth, as well as some other funky-ass shit. A big shout out to my neighboring listeners in Denver, Colorado. You're in my top 3 for number of episode downloads. I appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. And please be sure to tell your friends and neighbors. Last week I gave you a mystery music lyric. I saw a werewolf drinking a pina colada at Trader Vic's, and his hair was perfect. Y'all probably know that one. The song is Werewolves of London by Warren Zevon. Great song. Yeah, another great one of his is Lawyers, Guns, and Money. Dad, get me out of this. Okay, music. I am not a huge fan of the jazz genre, but there is one jazz pianist and composer that I really dig. His name is Dave Brubeck. He was born in Concord, California in 1920, and he is the foremost exponent in the genre of cool jazz. Yes, cool jazz. Now, his work is characterized by unusual time signatures, contrasting rhythms, and combining different styles and genres such as classical, jazz, and blues. Now, way back in 1951, he formed the band, the Dave Brubeck Quartet. And his most successful lineup included saxophonist Paul Desmond, bassist Eugene Wright, and drummer Joe Morello. And the bassist Eugene Wright, being a black man, this is one of the first racially mixed bands. And this also caused Brubeck during his career to cancel many shows since some of the venues would not allow a mixed race band. But he stuck to his guns. Now, his style ranged from refined to bombastic, and reflected his mother's classical training and his own improvisation skills. His genres include jazz, cool jazz, and West Coast jazz. Now, he won a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. He was inducted into the California Hall of Fame, and he received an honorary Doctor of Music degree from Berklee College of Music. And the LA Times noted him as one of jazz's first pop stars, and he was put on the cover of Time magazine. However, he's a modest guy. He rejected his fame, and he was also uncomfortable being on the cover of Time before Duke Ellington was. I'll confess I only own one album by him, titled Time Out. But holy shit, it's a great album. It was released in 1959, and it peaked at number 2 on the Billboard album charts, and became the first jazz album to sell 1 million copies. Now, the standout single, titled Take 5, was the first jazz single to sell over 1 million copies. Now, if you're unaware of this song, it saddens me, but I'll drop it on the playlist and we'll take care of that. Now, one of the themes of the album Time Out, as well as others he's put out, is unusual time signatures. Now, I'm not a music theorist. I don't know much about music theory. What I do know, I learned from Kenzie and my grandson Logan. But apparently these time signatures, they really make his music stand out. Now the song Take 5 is in 5/4 time throughout. The song Blue Rondo a la Turk, also a jazz standard, starts in 9/8 time on the piano, but the saxophone and piano solos are in 4/4 time. Now this 9/8 time was observed by Brubeck while watching street performers in Turkey. Thus the song title, the Blue Rondo a la Turk, I reckon. In 2005, this album was chosen by the Library of Congress to be added to the National Recording Registry, and it's listed as one of the 1001 albums you must hear before you die. And in 2009, it was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. Now, you guys may remember back when I had a discussion with Ian about the band Steely Dan. It was, 10 or 11 episodes ago? I'm not sure. Anyhow, their awesome album, Aja, AJA, it's got quite a bit of a jazzy sound to it. And it seems that Donald Fagen was inspired by Brubeck. Now, Fagen, he also released a jazzy solo album titled The Night Fly. Now, this is a great album containing the hit song New Frontier. And this song is about a guy whose parents built an underground shelter in the event of nuclear war, in which he throws a party and he is attracted to a girl there. And one of the lines in this song says, "I hear you're mad about Brubeck. I like your eyes. I like him too." Yeah. So I'm going to add that song to the playlist, as well as a few by Dave Brubeck. Please enjoy. Dave Brubeck, by the way, has passed. He's no longer with us. Rest in peace. Another, by the way, this music, Dave Brubeck's music, is ageless. And regardless of your age or your musical taste, I think you'll like it. And now a word from our sponsor. I'll be right back. Hey there, my name is Blind Melon Willie Ray Stanley, and I am the local musician here in Scratch Ankle, Alabama. Well, I mostly just busk here on Main Street in front of the Piggly Wiggly. Now, I really liked that Barrel Full of Darrell podcast when he talked about R.L. Burnside and put his songs on the playlist. I've been teaching myself how to play the song It's Bad You Know, but it's not quite the same on a kazoo or a banjo that's missing a string. So I guess I just need to play the songs like those from Oh Brother Where Art Thou. Them there, they have some pretty songs. Yeah, I had me a hat for people to drop tips into, but since I'm blind, I couldn't hear the little rascals who would reach in and steal them tips. So I got me a tin can, and I taped a little bell on the side of it, and then that solved the problem. So the next time you visit Scratch Ankle, be sure to stop by the Piggly Wiggly, and I'll play you a tune. Something like You Are My Sunshine or the Piggly Wiggly Jingle. This is Blind Melon Willie Ray Stanley saying hope to hear you soon. Bye for now. And we're back. Movie. Thank you to my daughter Megan for this week's movie. From our discussion last week on fried green tomatoes, we found out that they lost the Best Picture Academy Award to the awesome movie The Silence of the Lambs. Wow. What a movie. Wow. Holy moly. Guacamole. What a movie. Released in 1991, it's a psychological horror thriller directed by Jonathan Demme, and it's based on the book of the same title written by Thomas Harris. Now, this film, it was a smash hit. It grossed $300 million against a budget of $19 million. Yeah, quite popular. At the Academy Awards, it won the Big Five: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Adapted Screenplay. It is the only horror film to win Best Picture. And it launched a franchise that includes the sequel Hannibal and two prequels, Red Dragon and Hannibal Rising. Now, it stars Jodie Foster as Clarice Starling. She's a young FBI trainee in the Behavioral Science Unit. Now, the great Anthony Hopkins plays Dr. Hannibal Lecter, a brilliant and cannibalistic psychiatrist imprisoned at the Baltimore State Hospital for the criminally insane. Now, Ted Levine plays James Gumb, Jamegumb, also known as Buffalo Bill, a serial killer who kidnaps, imprisons, and kills women and removes their skin. Now, Clarice's boss, Jack Crawford, played by Scott Glenn, assigns her to conduct a psychological survey, air quotes, psychological survey of Hannibal in order to gain insights to help them capture Buffalo Bill. Now, Hannibal, he's courteous to Clarice at first, but he becomes dismissive after deducing that her ulterior motive to get his help. But he gives her an anagram, a clue which leads her to a storage unit that contains a severed head in a jar. Now, this head belonged to a former patient of Hannibal who was believed to have been killed by Buffalo Bill. When Clarice returns to visit Hannibal, he agrees to assist her in exchange for a transfer away from the hospital. Meanwhile, another victim is found with a death's head moth lodged in her throat, as it was with the severed head. That's a big part of this, the death's head moth. Now, eventually, Buffalo Bill kidnaps Catherine Martin, the daughter of a U.S. Senator, Ruth Martin. So the FBI boss, Crawford, he authorizes Clarice to offer Hannibal a fraudulent deal, a prison transfer for any actionable intelligence for them to find Buffalo Bill. So Hannibal, he demands quid pro quo. Can't talk today, Lisa. He demands quid pro quo for any info he gives Clarice, and he asks her personal questions. He learns that her father was a police officer in a small town who was killed on duty when Clarice was 10 years old, leaving her an orphan. Then Hannibal tells her that Buffalo Bill is not a genuine transsexual and was rejected from gender reassignment at clinics due to mental instability. Now, the hospital director, he's a jealous butthole named Chilton, and he secretly records the convos between Clarice and Hannibal. And he shares these recordings with Hannibal and exposes the fraudulent deal. Yeah, pissed Hannibal off. But Chilton offers Hannibal a deal that he can be relocated to Tennessee in exchange for information. Hannibal agrees, and he is flown to Memphis, where he provides Senator Martin with details about Buffalo Bill, but gives her a fake name, Louis Friend. Meanwhile, Buffalo Bill has the senator's daughter, Catherine, captive in a deep dry well, where he demands that she apply lotion to her skin. It puts the lotion on its skin, or else it gets the hose again. That's what he called her, it. That's what he calls all his captives, it. So Catherine's down in this well, and she's looking up, and she notices painted fingernails broken off in the walls, and she starts screaming. Also, a little later on, she manages to seize his dog, Precious, to use as leverage. Okay, back in Memphis, Clarice has deciphered the fake name Louis Friend as iron sulfate, fool's gold. Now she confronts Hannibal about this in his temporary cell. This cell, it's like in the middle of a huge courtroom in downtown Memphis, and he's basically in a large cage, and he's strapped, he's in handcuffs, basically just, a prisoner in a very odd environment, but it's very cool. Now, after she confronts him, he demands deeper revelations from her, and he gives her this clue: we covet what we see every day. In exchange for this clue, Clarice tells him that after her father's death, she moved to live with family on a farm in Montana, where she could hear the spring lambs being slaughtered and crying, and there was nothing that she could do to save them. So later that night, Hannibal uses an ink pen that he stole from Chilton to get out of his cuffs, and then he kills his 2 guards. He cuts the face off one of the guards and puts it on himself over his own face, and he's laying there on the floor like he's dead. Well, the EMTs come in, and they're thinking he is the guard, and they take him away by ambulance. Genius. Now, after analyzing Hannibal's notes, she deduces that Buffalo Bill knew his first victim and goes to visit the house where she lived in Ohio. In the house, she finds a sewing room with unfinished dresses, and they have patterns cut in the same way as the skin was cut on the victims. So she now realizes that Buffalo Bill is constructing a suit of human female flesh. Meanwhile, Jack Crawford cross-references Hannibal's files and finds a man named James Gum who has been importing death head moths from Suriname. Now, he and his team are headed to the address on file in a helicopter, and he passes this name along to Clarice, who has chased down a lead and goes to a house where James Gum lives, posing as Jack Gordon. Well, spoiler alert, here comes spoilers, so hang up now or keep listening. Now, when Crawford arrives at the address that he had found, the house is empty, and he immediately thinks that Clarice is in trouble. So back in Ohio, Clarice knocks on the house door and says that she's looking for James Gum. He answers the door, pretends to have information written down, and goes into the kitchen to retrieve it. While he's in there, a death's head moth flies in to the kitchen, and his cover is blown. So James runs off and gets away from Clarice. She takes off after him, and she sees Catherine down in the well and tells her to stay quiet and that she is safe. Catherine just starts screaming, "Get me out of here, you bitch." That kind of stuff. Don't blame her. Right about this time, James cuts off the power to the house, and Clarice is left in darkness. But James has night vision goggles, and he follows closely behind her. Now she hears James cocking his pistol, and she turns abruptly. In doing so, the bullet misses her and shatters a window behind her, letting in sunlight and blinding James. She proceeds to shoot him, and she kills him. Now that's one hell of a scene, and if you haven't seen this movie, I hope that you heeded the spoiler alert. Anyway, later on, she's at her graduation ceremony, and she is told she has a phone call. So she picks up the phone in the hallway, and Hannibal tells her, "Don't bother looking for me." And then he asks her if the lambs are silent now. This is a must-see movie. Honestly, it's currently streaming on Pluto TV, Roku Channel, Tubi, and Prime Video. By the way, did you notice I did not say the word fuck in this entire episode? I must be getting sick. Okay, word of the week. I think I've told you before, I do a hell of a lot of crosswords. And recently, this word has come up a couple of times. Soma, S-O-M-A. Soma. It refers to the physical body distinct from the soul or mind. It's the entire physical body of an organism. Now, in neuroscience, it is a central part of a neuron containing the nucleus, but excluding the axons and dendrites. It's also, at one time, it was a sacred, intoxicating drink used in rituals in ancient India. Also, again, in the book Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, it's a happiness drug used to keep citizens pacified and emotionally numb. Now, Soma. Joke of the week. A guy walks into a bar wearing a backpack. He sits on a stool and puts the backpack next to him. He unzips it and reaches in and pulls out a small piano. He sets the piano on the bar, then reaches in and pulls out a little man, sets him on the bar, and the little guy sits down and starts playing the piano. Well, the bartender, he sees all this and he's amazed. And he asks, "Where did you get this?" And the guy says, "I found a lamp, I rubbed it, and a genie came out, so I made a wish." The bartender says, "Wow, do you still have this lamp?" So the guy reaches into his backpack and pulls out the lamp. The bartender asks if he can try it, so the guy hands it to him. He rubs the lamp, and a genie pops out and grants him one wish. So the bartender asks for $1 million, but instantly $1 million ducks appeared. The bartender's like, what the heck? I asked for $1 million. And the guy says, well, a genie's a little hard of hearing. Do you really think I would have wished for a 10-inch pianist? Okay. Well, question of the week. Last week, the question was, how many languages are there in the world? According to Ethnologue, there are 7,170 languages in the world. Now, English is the most common spoken language, with 400 million people as their first language and 1 billion as their second language. You do the math right, that's 1.4 billion people. English is it's an Indo-European language family, and it's a branch of Germanic language. Yeah, kid you not. New question of the week. Why does a baseball have stitches? Also, why does a golf ball have dimples? Talk about that next week. Thought of the week. There is a great need for a sarcastic font. Okay, so don't forget about the BFOD playlist. Good music on there. Be sure to check out season 2 if you haven't yet done it. If you feel like contacting me, just click on the little send me a text button in the episode, or directly at bfodpodcast@gmail.com. Also, don't forget that this podcast has the option for you to support the show, and that means financially. You can elect to send me a couple of dollars a month if you so wish. It'd be great if you did. It'd be great if you didn't. Either way, just happy to have you here. So that's the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you were entertained and also maybe educated a little bit. We'll try it again next week, okay? I'll talk to you then. Bye for now.